به podcast ma kosh amadid. I just said welcome to our podcast in Persian. Welcome back to our third and final episode of Connecting to Our Cultures, where we talk about how different cultures are preserved in Toronto. I'm your host, Frankie, and I have Italian heritage, though I am born and raised here in Toronto. And in our past episodes, we explore Chinese and Nigerian cultures in Toronto and how the diaspora can stay connected with their culture. With Iran occupying the headlines, we decided to shine a lens on the Iranian community in Toronto. Here with me today is Arash Emadi, an Iranian musician based in Toronto. Hi, Arash. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, so thank you for having me. My name is Arash. I was born in Iran, in a city called Shiraz in the southern part of Iran. And I was living in Iran until I was 19 years old. Then I had to flee Iran because of my political activities and, everything that I did in Iran at the time. And I moved to Turkey. So I lived in Turkey for 5 years. And then in 2017, I moved to Canada, and Canada became my new home.
And how long have you lived in Toronto?
So I lived in Toronto ever since I moved to Canada. So from 2017 until now, it's been just Toronto. I've been to like other places, of course, but living, it's been Toronto.
Do you like it here?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Iran is going through a very hard time since the anti-government protests from last year and the recent war with the US and Israel. How does it feel for you to talk about Persian identity here right now?
It's such a difficult thing to talk about because from late December in 2025, Iran went through a crazy thing. So we saw an uprising of people, unlike the previous ones that we had seen like over the years. We've been trying to raise our voice to show the government that we no longer want them. And every time they've shut the people down, using different methods. But this time it was like the scale of it was so crazy, so crazy. So talking about it right now, when I know the majority of Iranians are under a total internet shutdown, forced shutdown, where they can't even, say what they want anymore. It's so difficult to talk about it, but I feel like it's really important for us to talk about it because I've seen so many different groups of people around the world trying to change the narrative of the Iranian people, especially ever since they were silenced with this digital blackout. And I think as my duty, I see it as my duty to find any chance I can to be their voice now that they can't talk for themselves.
That's beautiful. So how are you doing and how's your community?
It's been a really tough period of time for all Iranians. And interestingly enough, you call this a war between Iran and Israel and the US. We see it as a rescue mission for the Iranian people. It's what the Iranian people wanted. It's what they wrote on the walls of Iran, talking to President Trump, saying, we see the only way of this regime toppling and we reaching the freedom that we've wanted for years and years is for you to intervene militarily in Iran, right? You will hear a lot of news, a lot of people even claiming they're like patriots, they know all about Iran or something like that, say otherwise. But why are the people silenced then? That makes me sick to my stomach. My people can't tell the world what they want, but the world is telling us, the other Iranians in the diaspora, you know what? You don't know what your family wants back home. You don't know what your friend wants. Let me tell you what you should want instead, So it's really difficult to talk about it. And to know that actively people are being arrested, executed in Iran right now, right this moment, as they're trying to show the world, you know what, we've changed. We're doing well. We're going to be good with everyone. They're killing their own people still. They're doing it right now. So it's still a really difficult topic to talk about. We don't know what's going on because of the blackout. And we only get like seconds to talk to some of our family members and friends if they're able to pay for it, which given the financial situation right now, not a lot of people are able to do that.
I'm really happy that you shared that with us. That really teaches us a lot about what's going on right now and how it's affecting people first-handedly. Can you briefly walk us through the history and the difference between Persian and Iranian identity?
Yeah, sure. So when we talk about Iranian, we're talking about the nationality, right? So anyone who's born in Iran is an Iranian. But when we talk about Persian and Persian identity, we're talking about one of the main ethnic groups, one of the oldest ethnic groups in Iran, which are the Persians. So we have other, ethnic minorities and ethnic groups, peoples groups in Iran that may not even speak Persian or Farsi, as it's known now. and may speak their own language, they still, obviously, because Farsi is the main language of the country, they still understand.
Why is connecting to your culture and your community so important to you right now?
It's because the regime that's ruling Iran for like almost half a century right now has used every tool at its disposal, every chance it's received, every chance it's gotten to silence its people, to oppress its people, and to just keep them silent and happy in the most minimal way possible, just to advance their own agendas and get to whatever their ideology is telling them, right? So that's something that doesn't really let you get disconnected from your home. I was someone who fled from Iran. I didn't leave Iran to like go on a trip or something, to go study abroad or something. I was forced to leave Iran. I didn't want to leave Iran. I loved Iran. I still do. I haven't seen my hometown, my home country for since 2012, right? I haven't been back for even a single day.
Wow.
And, so despite that, I still feel the strongest connection to my country. And you see like 300,000 Iranians gather in the streets here, marching, shouting the same names, shouting the same slogans that their compatriot back shouted and wrote on the walls with their blood, right? So such a deep connection that people have with their heritage. They're trying to take back something that was forcefully taken from them. And that's why even before this, we were all feeling connected with Iran, but especially after this uprising, after the brutal massacre of tens of thousands of Iranians unnecessarily.
And you said you haven't been home for 12 years.
Yeah,
What does being an Iranian in Canada mean to you? Do you feel Canadian culture as well?
yeah, for sure. So um, when I was back in Turkey, living in Turkey, I actually, ever since I like left Iran and I decided, we have to look for a place to resettle after this, right? Toronto has always been my one and only. So there's a lot of people who have chosen like cities in the US, different cities in Canada, and then maybe Toronto as well. But for some reason, Toronto had always stood out to me because I saw that it's one of the rarest, I guess, examples of different groups of people trying their best to live together in peace and harmony. I definitely feel Canadian. I can't say as Canadian as I am Iranian, given the time that I've spent in my country and the more limited time I've spent in Canada. But since day one, I felt like home. Like I set my foot in Pearson Airport, and I felt like I've come back to my home. And that's, I think, something unique about Canada and something unique about Toronto.
That's a wonderful feeling. I think that's a feeling that we all have. We love it here as well. It's a great place for
Definitely is.
sure.
Definitely is.
So you also have a band here in
Yes.
Toronto.
Hmm.
Did you start that band in Toronto?
Yes, I did. It's actually pretty new band. If you consider we've been only active under this name for like 3 years now, and we did start it in Canada actually. So it is a Canadian Iranian band, just like myself.
And what's the name of your band?
So the name is Edrock. We spell it as EDROCK. Edrock Band on Instagram if you'd like to see and follow our work. Edrock, if it's okay, I can give you a little background
Yes,
into the
please.
root of this word. So even though when you write it in English, you can actually see the word rock, and we deliberately spell it that way so that you see the word rock in the name as well. The actual name is an Arabic/Persian word, which means perception. So to us, the music that we produce is our perception and our feeling of that very moment that we've created that music, or that window of time when we've spent time creating that music. So to us, it's really personal. We don't do it for fame. We don't do it for fortune, for money. All of us in the band, we have full-time jobs, which makes it really difficult for you to spend time and to allocate time to music writing and stuff like that. Edrock is perception. To us, the music that we create and we publish is our perception of different topics that we're dealing with day by day. Our perception is something that can be changed over time. So you might hear me singing something like today, and in 2 years' time, I may sing something that's exactly against what I sang like 2 years before that, right? So that's what we wanted to show, even in our name, that this is like a journey. We may change everything about our music, over time.
So Ed Rock basically combines rock and Persian music. So how do you weave Persian traits into the music that you create?
Because the music that you create, it comes from all the feelings that you have at the time that you're creating that music, right? So it's not so much of me weaving Persian traits into rock music, it's me weaving rock music into my Persian traits,
That's
you
so
know?
cool. Where do you perform your music?
So
Curious.
yeah, we've done a number of live shows. Our shows aren't that big. The biggest show we did was actually at Drake Underground in Toronto, downtown Toronto. We actually did sold out that night, and we were the featured band. That was our first live performance in Toronto. We've done the Fairview Library Theatre. That was another big show that we did. But other than that, we have these smaller gatherings, musical gatherings across, downtown and even other places.
Can you introduce us to some of your songs that are special to you?
Yeah, for sure. So I want to focus on the latest. I mean, all of them are definitely special to me in their own way, and I have many stories to tell you about each one track. But I want to focus on the latest single that we released. It's called Jan Fada. If I want to translate that to English, I can say that I'm sacrificing my life. So that word, there was a period of time when the uprising happened, when we were constantly monitoring the news channels, different news channels, because everything was changing so rapidly and you didn't know what to expect. And one night I was brushing my teeth listening to a segment on one of the channels. And the guy who was talking on that segment, for the first time, he started listing and talking about the names of those who had lost their lives in Iran, including their name, their city where they were born, the city where they were killed, their age, what they did. So he started changing all those numbers that we were hearing until then into actual people now with stories. You can't ignore that anymore. You can't say, oh, you know what, 40,000, who knows, maybe it's 30,000, maybe it's 20,000. But now you know the names, you are seeing the pictures, you're hearing the stories. It makes it so much more real when you hear those names. And I was brushing my teeth, and as he was saying these names, I just started crying. Like I couldn't, the ages I was hearing, I couldn't believe that. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna use what he's saying, and he says the same sentence before he gives you the name of that person who has lost their life. And I said, I'm gonna use this sentence in one of the songs that we're gonna write about this, revolution. And that's how this song came to be. And if you listen to the end of the song, you actually hear the guy that I heard when I was brushing my teeth talking about the people. We've omitted the names, but we've kept the ages. And the song ends on him saying, this person who sacrificed their own life for their country, he was 13 years old. And that's how the song ends. So it's a really deep and really, hurtful song. Uh, but it has hope in it as well because at the end, at the we call it the C, part C of the song, we actually bring in some hope. We are saying that despite everything that has happened, we will keep fighting because we know one day freedom will be ours and freedom will come back to us.
That is so inspiring and so special. That's very deep.
Thank you.
There is a part in North York, Willowdale, where there's a great Persian community. In fact, last October it was officially recognized as Little Iran by the city of Toronto. Do you spend time there?
Yeah, so I definitely when it was first opened, I was there because I was super excited about it. You know, to see a more kind of official representation of your country, and it shows you like you know what the people I live with actually acknowledge that there are enough people from Iran here to tell people in Canada, you know what, Iranians are a key part of like the Canadian culture that has been built over the years, right? They've contributed. They've tried to help build Canada alongside their other Canadian compatriots, of course, from different parts of the world. So I thought this was really important that something like this is happening. I've been there a number of times, but I invite everyone, whoever is interested and can, listening to this podcast, to definitely, when you want to know more about different cultures, don't just listen to me. I'm just one person out of a lot of people who are living here. The best thing to do is to place yourself, where those people are living day by day, not to even directly talk to them, just to be in their vicinity, right? When you see them live, you'll know more about them, about their culture. You see like how they've decorated their shops, what photos are they displaying these days? Why is everyone putting on that lion and sun flag these days? Like all these will give you more, incentive, more reason for you to connect to this different culture, to know more about it, and in a good way, right? You're learning about it as a lot of important things happening in the world are keyed directly to this country and to this culture. So the more you know about it, I think the better it can be for everyone.
Well, moving to another country is a big decision. So, Toronto is a special place because it is built on all of these different layers of cultures. Every person who moves here gets to experience the best of Canada and stay connected to their own heritage and culture through music, food, and special areas in Toronto, like Willowdale, where diaspora lives and works. Toronto is like this giant mosaic where different cultures meet and flourish. Thank you so much, Arash, for sharing with us your culture.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that wraps up the third and final episode of Connecting to TO. We hope you enjoyed our podcast. And to conclude, we've got the whole team here to share what they've learned. I can't wait to try Blessedlicious with Teo.
That's really awesome. I learned about the Chinese culture that this is the year of the horse, and it signals momentum, it signals strength, and I can also already feel the strength bubbling in me right now.
So this episode, we also explored the Iranian culture. I think it's really touching, and I have so much feelings for it. What do you think, Iris?
Yeah, so you can see we are from different cultural backgrounds, so that's why we choose to do the connecting to our cultures. And I'm a Chinese, so the first episode I shared our Chinese traditions about the Lunar New Year, but I really learned a lot. Like for our second and third episode for the Nigerian and Iranian culture, it's so meaningful to learn about someone else's culture, to learn the emotional bond between people.
Living in the most diversified city in Canada, we are all excited to try more culture than the ones we've already experienced in our 3-episode series. Thank you, everyone, for watching and being part of this.